Hello there, my name's Vinod Ravindranathan and welcome to the Mindfulness Zone, this collection of podcasts and YouTube recordings with meditations and reflections which I hope you'll like. If you chose this particular podcast or recording, there's a very good chance that somebody's upset you. You may be feeling anger, you may be feeling rage, you may be wanting to get even. Well, I hope that this recording will give you some form of relief. An opportunity to step outside of all of that turbulence, an opportunity to step outside of the mind with its chatter and its problems, and if not into a state of peace and stillness, at least into a space where you will find some comfort, some relief, and perhaps most importantly, some acceptance of these emotions that you are feeling. In this recording, I'm not going to tell you to get rid of your anger. I'm not even going to tell you that anger, rage, and revenge are bad emotions. I'm not going to call them undesirable in any way. But what I am going to do is help you to make peace with all or any one of these emotions that you may be experiencing at this moment. I will be recording a few different podcasts on this subject, but for now, let's assume that it's a person who has upset you, who has made you angry, somehow hasn't lived up to your expectations or treated you in some way that fell below the standards that you would have expected from them. The first thing I would ask you to do, if this is at all an option, the first thing that I would ask you to do would be to simply leave the room. If this is an opportunity that you have, to leave that space where you are in direct proximity with that person, so that you can just, for a few moments, be alone. You may pause this recording if you need those few seconds or minutes to leave. And now we can resume. Now that you are physically separate from that person, different part of the house or flat, or perhaps even outside, getting some fresh air, I'd like you to begin right now by simply taking in all that you are experiencing right now. Everything, the sounds around you, the sights around you, if there are any smells, the temperature which you can experience through your skin. What about the taste in your mouth? Are there still tastes lingering within your mouth? And now from the world around you, I'd like to invite you to scan through your body, the different parts of your body. What's your body experiencing right now? I don't know if you still feel as upset as you did a few moments ago, but what can you experience through your body? If you are still upset, if you are still angry, how does this translate itself through your body? What do the muscles feel like? What do the joints feel like? What does the skin around your forehead feel like? What do your eyebrows feel like? And your facial expression? What does it feel like from within? Flesh, the bone and the skin, tight, loose. What does your jawbone feel like? And then very gently move downwards through your arms, your chest, particularly the muscles, your shoulders. Do they feel tight or loose? You're not going to change anything. You just want to take in what you're experiencing at this moment. Translating those emotions that you seem to feel in your mind, translating them through the feelings that you can experience within your body, the muscles, and perhaps deeper within the organs within the chest, the stomach, pelvic region. What we are doing is we are narrowing the scope of our experience. If you can imagine in your mind's eye an hourglass, you know those little things that people used a long time ago to keep time, where when you turned it over, sand would very slowly drop down from the wide bit through a very narrow passage back into a wide space underneath. grain by grain. In the same way, in this practice, we began by experiencing the world around us, and then these surfaces around our body, and then that part within the body getting narrower and narrower until finally we bring our focus to our breath. And so beginning to tune into this process we call breathing, but only at a sensory level, noticing the temperature of the air as it flows in, noticing the surfaces within and around the nostrils upon which the air brushes against, noticing how deep and how high into the nasal passage you can still experience the sensations of this in-breath, and then noticing how it transforms itself into an out-breath. Again, tuning into its temperature, the speed at which it travels down and out through the nostrils, and the surfaces outside of the nostrils upon which the breath out brushes against. And so tuning into every breath that flows in and out in a completely relaxed way, not forcing anything, not breathing unnaturally, but simply bringing a very high level of awareness into every sensation that you can experience as the air flows in and out through. And now, once again, expanding from the breath back to all that you're experiencing within your body, your bones, your joints, your flesh, your skin, perhaps even the beating of your heart rate, expanding it throughout the outer surfaces of your body, your skin, and then now expanding your awareness to the space around you, the temperature of the room, what you can see, hear, the colors, the soundscape that surrounds you, sounds that are both near and far. Noticing how you are bathed as you sit or stand or perhaps even walk through this soundscape of different sounds. And you could stop listening to this recording now, depending on how you feel and depending on how much time you have. Just because you may feel a little better than you did earlier, but I'm going to continue talking anyway, just in case you don't, or even if the anger has passed. You've reached that point where you really don't know what to make of the anger. Many of us often beat ourselves up after going through a bout of anger or rage, having been conditioned by society to believe that anger is a negative emotion, a bad emotion that we should not be experiencing. Probably going back to our childhood where we were punished by teachers, parents and adults around us for expressing our anger, for expressing our frustration. In this recording, I'm not here to tell you that anger is a bad emotion. I'm not here to tell you that rage is a bad emotion that you shouldn't be experiencing. I'm just here to see if I can help you to make peace with your anger. And why would we want to make peace with our anger? Why would we want to make peace with the rage that we experienced? Could it be because by pushing against it, by criticizing ourselves, it merely pushes back towards us, sometimes with greater force? Something that we see happening all around us, where so many of us are chastised and criticized by those around us, by the religions, by our society, that anger is unacceptable and should not be shown. And so what happens to so many of us is that we simply bury it underneath many of the other thoughts that we keep, wearing a mask of some sort, a mask that shows the world around us a smile, while the anger simply eats us up from within. Anger that then resurfaces when we least expect it to, often triggered by the smallest, mildest, and most insignificant of reasons. Today, let's try a different approach. Let's see what happens when we begin this process whereby we attempt to make peace with anger, whereby we make peace with rage, just as an experiment, just to see whether this would serve us. Becoming friendly with these emotions, making peace with the anger, with one purpose and one purpose only, and that would be so that we can move on into the next chapter of our life. And making peace with anger and rage begins with us reminding ourselves not to be hard on ourselves for actually feeling the anger and rage. No longer judging ourselves badly and criticizing ourselves for experiencing all that we are experiencing at this moment. We begin by simply becoming aware of this anger, aware of the emotions that are passing through us, almost as though they were passing clouds, breathing and becoming aware of our breath, using our breath to anchor us into this moment where we have an opportunity to step outside of these thoughts, outside of these clouds which become the metaphor for our thoughts. And then perhaps we might ask ourselves what we were experiencing prior to that surge in anger and rage. Did we experience emotions such as fear or grief or despair or perhaps even depression, perhaps a paralyzing fear and a debilitating feeling of despair, which made us feel powerless, helpless, and completely at their mercy? Or over the past few days and weeks, have we been experiencing emotions such as guilt or insecurity? If we did experience any of these emotions, then could it be that anger has been a step up, a move away from those feelings that have given you that feeling of helplessness? Could it be that the anger and the rage that you experienced has somehow given you some form of relief from that feeling of helplessness? And if anger has allowed me to feel better, if the anger and the rage has given you even just a little bit of relief from that helpless feeling of despair and depression, then would it not be a good emotion? Or at least a better emotion than what I was feeling before that? Does that not mean that I am moving closer towards making peace with it so that I may move on to those other emotions that feel even better than anger and rage? By making peace with these emotions, I am releasing trapped pockets of anger and the trapped pockets of rage that simply build up into so much more turbulence within my mind. And perhaps instead of condemn that person who had triggered off this anger and rage, I owe them thanks for reminding me that these pockets of anger and rage had been trapped within me for so long. They were merely the triggers and not the cause. But perhaps I do not need to investigate the cause any further. But this is a practice whereby I simply attempt to make peace with my present moment. And the person who triggered this anger had allowed me to recognize all that was going on within me. And so perhaps I should be thankful to them. I don't need to physically tell them or physically thank them. I can do this mentally, but I do know that I feel a little bit better than I used to. As you can tell, I'm speaking from your vantage point. As I listen to these reflections, as I listen to this meditation of sorts, I'm beginning to realize that I have the ability to redirect my thoughts. This whole experience has shown me that I do not have to be at the mercy of my thoughts. And even though it often feels like my thoughts are thinking me and I have no choice in the thoughts that I keep, this experience has somehow shown me that I can very gently and gradually guide my mind in a different direction. A direction that helps me to feel that little bit better. Right now, at this particular point in time, which so happens to be the only point in time that's relevant to me. What about that person who wronged me? What about that person who harmed me? What he or she did was wrong, and it did cause me a lot of pain, a great deal of pain. But right now in this moment, I'm beginning to recognize that the pain that I'm experiencing at this moment is simply because I am thinking about that event in the past, those words or those actions that were committed or done against me. I seem to be reliving the whole experience over and over again as I recollect and I rethink and I remember. I'd like to remind you of a saying that I heard not long ago by someone called Wayne Dyer. He spoke of how it was never a snake bite that killed a person, but the venom and the poison that came out of that snake, that flowed through the bloodstream. I think he was using it as a metaphor, illustrating how the actions and the hurtful words of another represent the bite. It did happen and it did hurt, but what destroys us and what slowly kills us off is the fact that we remember and replay that action and those words over and over again in our minds. Words and actions that may in fact mean very little to the person who caused it, who caused that pain, who caused that hurt, but somehow grows within us and festers and rots as we rethink and replay, continuing to rewind and play over and over again within our mind. Let us bring our awareness back to our breath so that we can, just for a brief moment, once again step outside of that thought process. Step outside of that thought stream so that there is once again space between ourselves and those words, those events, and just observe, just notice, and perhaps let go and release. What does it feel like to release? What does it feel like to let go? Perhaps quickly scanning through the body. What am I feeling within my body? What is the pace of my breathing? Is it fast or slow? Is it deep or shallow? If you are able to, if you feel you are able to, then perhaps breathing in a little bit more deeply, taking in as much air as you can and holding it there for a brief moment before slowly and very gently releasing the breath. Repeating this process over and over again, perhaps just a few times, but becoming very much more conscious of your breathing process as you do this, or rather as you be this, deeper and deeper, and releasing slower and slower, tuning into the different sensations of your breath. I'm going to end this recording right now, but please feel free to continue with this pace of breathing for as long as you would like to. consciously, deeply, and kindly as you settle into a deeper state of simply accepting all that you've been through, perhaps understanding its value, appreciating. Thank you, and I hope to speak with you very soon. Please do visit me at www.mindfulness.zone, whether it's for more recordings or one of my live online meditations. I look forward to being with you sometime in the near future. Goodbye.